You are sitting alone in a room and outwardly everything appears perfectly still, but inside your head a violent, deafening war is raging. You are replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, punishing yourself for something you said. You're projecting 5 years into the future, mapping out elaborate disaster scenarios of how your career, your relationships, and your entire life might collapse. You are carrying the heavy, suffocating weight of 1,000 fears, doubts, and bitter resentments. You think you are just analyzing your life. You think you're being realistic. You think this endless, exhausting mental loop is a necessary part of being a responsible human being. But let us be brutally honest today. You are not analyzing your life. You are actively poisoning it. We live in a culture that has completely lost the ability to control its own mind. Modern society teaches you that every thought that pops into your head is a valid expression of your truth. We are told to sit in our anxiety, to validate our catastrophic thinking, and to treat our darkest internal whispers as undeniable facts. Because of this, the vast majority of people are living as helpless prisoners inside their own skulls. They are chained to their toxic thoughts, bleeding their premium mental energy every single day, completely at the mercy of an internal dialogue they never chose to create. Thousands of years ago, the ancient Stoics, men who navigated brutal wars, survived political exiles, and endured the horrors of slavery, recognized this as the ultimate human tragedy. Men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus understood a terrifyingly powerful truth. Your mind is an empire, and if you do not actively rule it, it will absolutely rule you. They knew that true freedom has nothing to do with where you live or how much money you possess. True freedom is the lethal, uncompromising discipline of mastering your own thoughts. Today we are going to tear down the mental prisons you have spent years building for yourself. We're going to explore 7 brutal Stoic laws that will teach you how to violently sever the root of your toxic thoughts and reclaim absolute sovereignty over your mindset. These are not soft, gentle affirmations. They are rigorous psychological weapons. When you implement them, you will stop drowning in your own imagination, and you will begin to command your reality. Before we begin to rebuild your mental architecture, you must make a definitive choice. Are you ready to stop being a hostage to the noise inside your own head? If you are tired of losing your peace to imaginary disasters, hit the subscribe button right now to join an elite community of sovereign minds who refuse to live in fear. Share this video with someone who is currently suffocating under the weight of their own overthinking. And whatever you do, do not skip a single moment of this guide. Every law we uncover is a critical piece of the armor you desperately need. Seal your commitment to this transformation today. Drop this exact vow in the comments right now. I am the sole commander of my mind. Number 1, clears throat. The absolute separation of the observer and the noise. The fundamental reason toxic thoughts are currently destroying your peace is that you believe you are your thoughts. When a sudden wave of panic hits your brain, you say, I am anxious. When an old memory of failure surfaces, you say, I am a failure. You have completely fused your core identity with the chaotic, random, and often broken stream of consciousness that flows through your nervous system. You're operating under a devastating structural error. Your brain is not a truth-telling machine. It is a biological survival engine. It is evolutionarily hardwired to scan for threats, to remember painful experiences to protect you, and to generate worst-case scenarios. If you believe that every panicked thought your brain produces is a reflection of your true soul, you will live your entire life in a state of emotional whiplash. The Stoic masters discovered the ultimate psychological separation. You are not the toxic thoughts that appear in your mind. You are the silent awareness that observes them. You must begin to treat your mind like a room and your thoughts like uninvited guests walking through the door. When a toxic thought enters, a thought of jealousy, inadequacy, or dread, you do not offer it a chair. You do not serve it tea. You do not engage in a passionate debate with it. You simply step back and observe it with cold, clinical detachment. You say to yourself, I am experiencing a thought of inadequacy right now. By creating that tiny microscopic gap between the stimulus and your identity, you strip the thought of its venom. You realize that you do not have to obey every fear your brain invents. You are the commander of the fortress, and the toxic thoughts are just meaningless weather outside the walls. Declare your sovereignty right now. Type this: I am the observer, not the noise. Number 2, the assassination of the second arrow. Look at how you process a minor inconvenience. Your boss sends a short, blunt email. That is the first arrow. It is a raw, neutral piece of data. It stings slightly, but it is entirely manageable. But what do? You instantly reach for a second arrow and you stab it directly into your own chest. You start telling yourself a massive toxic story. My boss hates me. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to lose my house. I'm a complete failure. You take a neutral event and wrap it in layers of catastrophic fiction, plunging yourself into hours of agonizing despair over a scenario that does not actually exist. Seneca, a man of staggering wealth and power who eventually faced the ultimate loss, wrote with devastating accuracy, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. To kill your toxic thoughts, you must master the discipline of dropping the second arrow. You must train your mind to stop adding a horrific narrative to neutral facts. When something goes wrong, you strip it down to its most boring objective reality. My boss sent a short email. That is it. There is no conspiracy. There is no impending doom. When you refuse to write the script of your own destruction, the anxiety starves to death. You stop paying the emotional toll for tragedies that have not even occurred. You realize that reality is highly manageable. It is only your dramatic, toxic interpretation of reality that feels impossible to survive. Stop hurting yourself with your own imagination. Lock in your mental discipline today. Comment below: I refuse to suffer in my own imagination. Number 3, the violent eviction of the victim narrative. There is a highly addictive, incredibly dangerous thought pattern that is currently draining your life force. The narrative of the victim. When you face an unfair situation, a betrayal, or a massive setback, your mind immediately generates the most toxic question in the human language. Why is this happening to me? Society coddles this question. We are encouraged to sit in our grievances, to tally up our injustices, and to build an identity around how unfairly the world has treated us. But the victim narrative is a psychological prison. When you ask, why me? You are surrendering your agency. You are telling your subconscious mind that you are a helpless target of a cruel universe, and you are waiting for an apology that is never going to come. The ancient Stoics despised the victim mindset. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal by his closest general, the loss of multiple children, and constant war on the frozen frontiers of Rome. He never once wrote, "Why is life so unfair?" To master your mindset, you must violently evict the victim narrative from your brain. You must replace the weak question of why me with the terrifyingly powerful question of now what? Now what am I going to do with this betrayal? Now how am I going to use this failure to forge my character? When you eliminate the concept of unfairness from your vocabulary, you neutralize the toxic thought instantly. A setback is no longer a tragedy. It is simply data. A rejection is no longer a wound to your soul. It is simply a change in the wind. When you stop acting like life owes you a smooth ride, you become an unstoppable force of nature that can navigate any storm. Anchor your supreme accountability right now. Drop this vow in the comments. I trade victimhood for absolute power. Number 4, the ruthless curation of your mental inputs. You wonder why your mind is a swamp of negativity, comparison, and fear. But look at what you are feeding it. You wake up and immediately ingest the manufactured outrage of the morning news. You spend hours scrolling through the curated fake perfection of other people's lives, absorbing toxic comparison. You engage in idle gossip with cynical coworkers. You're treating your mind like a landfill and then expressing shock when it produces garbage. Epictetus taught his students that the mind is a sacred space and you must act as a ruthless gatekeeper. If someone walked into your physical home and dumped a bag of trash on your living room floor, you would be furious. You would throw them out immediately, yet you happily leave the front door of your mind wide open, allowing algorithms, advertisers, and toxic people to dump their anxiety, fear, and drama directly into your subconscious. To kill toxic thoughts, you must radically alter your mental diet. You must practice the discipline of input starvation. Cut off the news that you cannot influence. Unfollow every single account that triggers feelings of inadequacy. Walk away from conversations that consist entirely of complaining. If you want a mind that operates with clarity, power, and peace, you must feed it premium fuel. Read philosophy, study history, consume knowledge that elevates your character rather than content that manipulates your dopamine. When you stop giving the world permission to plant toxic seeds in your brain, the weeds will naturally begin to die. Declare your boundaries today. Type this: I am the ruthless gatekeeper of my mind. Number 5, the lethal application of physical momentum. One of the greatest lies you've been told is that you can think your way out of a toxic thought. When you are caught in a spiral of overthinking, you sit on your couch staring at the wall, trying to logically dismantle your anxiety. You try to argue with your fear, but trying to defeat a toxic thought with more thinking is like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. You're simply keeping the engine running. The mind cannot always heal the mind. Sometimes you must use the body to break the mind. The Stoics understood the deep biological connection between physical action and mental clarity. When your mind is drowning in a toxic loop, you must utilize the lethal application of physical momentum. You do not sit still. You abruptly and violently change your physical state. You drop to the floor and do 40 push-ups. You step into a freezing cold shower. You walk out the front door and run until your lungs burn. You shock your nervous system. When you force your physical body into intense, undeniable action, you drag your consciousness out of the abstract, terrifying future and slam it directly into the concrete present. You literally disrupt the neurological loop of anxiety. The mind is forced to stop obsessing over imaginary ghosts because the body is demanding oxygen and effort right now. Action is the ultimate antidote to overthinking. When you cannot control what is happening inside your head, take immediate, brutal control over what is happening with your limbs. Commit to action over rumination. Comment below: I break mental loops with physical motion. Number 6, the complete detachment from external opinions. Examine the root of your most toxic thoughts. What if they think I'm a failure? What if I look stupid? What if they don't like me? A staggering percentage of your mental suffering is generated entirely by your desperate addiction to the approval of other people. You're living your life as a performance for an audience of strangers. You are twisting your personality, censoring your true beliefs, and agonizing over your choices because you have made your internal peace dependent on external applause. Marcus Aurelius frequently marveled at this human absurdity. He wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." If you want to master your mindset today, you must completely and unapologetically detach your self-worth from the judgments of the crowd. You must realize a brutal truth. The people you are terrified of being judged by are just as lost, insecure, and anxious as you are. Their opinions are not objective truth. They are fleeting, unreliable echoes of their own internal chaos. When you stop needing to be validated by the world, the toxic anxiety of comparison instantly vanishes. You stop asking, will this make them clap? And you start asking, does this align with my integrity? You accept that living boldly will invite criticism, and you decide that the criticism of a fool is completely irrelevant to the mission of a warrior. When your self-respect is generated internally, the whispers of the world become nothing more than wind against a mountain. Claim your absolute independence right now. Type this: my worth does not require their applause. Number 7, the daily confrontation with the absolute end. This is the final, most terrifying, and most radically liberating weapon in the Stoic arsenal. It is the ultimate cure for the toxic noise of modern life. You worry about trivial things because you are operating under a massive, dangerous delusion. You live your life as though you are immortal. You assume you have an infinite supply of tomorrows because you think your time is unlimited. You allow your mind to obsess over petty arguments, slight embarrassments, and insignificant fears. You treat minor inconveniences like major catastrophes because you have lost all perspective. The Stoic masters shattered this illusion every single day with a practice of memento mori. Remember that you must die. When you truly viscerally internalize the fact that your heart has a finite number of beats remaining and that this very day could be your last, the toxic nonsense of the world instantly evaporates. When you look the reality of your own death directly in the eye, the fear of asking for a promotion disappears. The anxiety over an awkward conversation vanishes. The desire to hold on to a bitter grudge feels incredibly foolish. Death is not a depressing thought. It is the ultimate clarifier. When you remember that you are a temporary visitor on this earth, you realize that you simply cannot afford to waste a single hour drowning in toxic thoughts. You stop living in fear of what might go wrong, and you start living with a fierce, unapologetic urgency to execute your purpose right now. You stop surviving the day and you start commanding it because you know the clock is relentlessly ticking down. Anchor this ultimate truth right now. Leave this vow in the comments. My time is finite and I will not waste it on fear. Killing your toxic thoughts is not a gentle process. It is not something you achieve by lighting a candle or wishing for better days. It is a brutal daily invisible war. When you separate the observer from the noise, when you drop the second arrow of imagination, when you evict the victim narrative, when you ruthlessly guard your mental inputs, when you break overthinking with physical action, when you detach from external opinions, and when you confront your own mortality, you completely reconstruct the architecture of your mind. You will look around at the masses, people who are constantly offended, constantly anxious, constantly spiraling over things they cannot control, and you will feel a profound sense of detachment. You are no longer playing their game. You have stepped off the treadmill of emotional reactivity and entered a realm of quiet, unshakable mastery. But you must understand that watching a video about mental toughness achieves absolutely nothing. The mind does not transform through passive consumption. It transforms through relentless, uncomfortable execution. Tomorrow morning, a toxic thought will enter your mind. It will tell you that you are not ready. It will tell you to fear the day. It will beg you to return to the comfort of your old anxieties. In that exact fraction of a second, you will decide who you are. You will either surrender the throne of your mind to the chaos, or you will strike the anvil. You will pause, you will breathe, and you will cold-bloodedly choose your response. You will deny the toxic thought its power, and you will execute your duties with the quiet, lethal discipline of a Stoic master. If you have stayed in the fire with me until the very end of this transmission, you possess a rare, raw hunger for actual transformation. You're not a spectator, you are a builder. Prove your commitment to your own mind today. Hit the like button to lock in your progress right now. Share this video with a friend who is fighting their own invisible battles and needs the armor of Stoicism. And make absolutely sure you are subscribed to this channel so you never lose your edge in a world designed to make you weak. Leave your final unbreakable declaration in the comments below. I command my mind and I conquer my reality. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, guard your inner citadel. I will see you in the next one.